All right, so to start, there's a semi-truck and a tow truck stuck in the gate, which is the only entrance and exit from my house. So I'm unable to make it today. However, I did my presentation, I would have done my presentation on Cymbeline, which I think is how you pronounce it. It is a later one of Shakespeare's plays, like one of his last. In the order that I found and looked up, I think it was, well, now I've lost it, but I think fairly certain it was like fourth or fifth from the last. Wait, here it is. Yeah, so out of the 38 plays, this is 34th. It was from somewhere between Cymbeline is 34th. Basically how I chose this one is I wanted to do a tragedy. I didn't want to do one that I had read before, and I didn't want to do one that I'd heard of, basically. I found Cymbeline. I hadn't heard the name, so I looked up a quick summary. I saw one thing that was done in the play that reminded me of something in Othello, and I was interested. I'm a big fan of Othello, so I figured I would run with that, I guess. So to start with an overview of the play, it's a lot. It's a big play. So there's a king named Cymbeline. Also, this is based on a myth, apparently, like a old British myth, but there's a king named Cymbeline. He has a daughter named Imogen, that she is his heir because he had two sons. They were 3 and 2 when they were kidnapped, which is relevant later. We'll get there. But Imogen is his heir. Imogen is engaged to her stepbrother because the king married a widow who had a son from a previous marriage. The stepbrother's name is Claudin, I think is his name. So Imogen is engaged to Claudin, but she doesn't like him, so she kind of runs off with this guy named Posthumus Leonatus, who it was an orphan that the king adopted when he was a little kid and raised him sort of alongside Imogen. So they ran away together, they got married. The king is not happy with this because she married some poor guy, and the queen is not happy with this because she was trying to grab her power with her son being king eventually, and that didn't work out for her. So the queen, sorry, my notes are over here. The queen is very upset, but she's pretending not to be because she's a little scheming, which is a little bit reminiscent of Lady Macbeth, though I would say a lot more about ill intentions than it is just about power in this situation. So, yeah, the king sends Posthumus is what I call him throughout, basically. He's called both. But they sent Posthumus to Rome. He, in Rome, finds, he meets this guy named Iachimo, and Iachimo and him make a bet that basically Iachimo's point is that all women are unfaithful by design, and Posthumus is like, no, my wife is faithful, she would never. And so Posthumus and Posthumus and Iachimo make a bet. Then Iachimo goes back to Imogen with the plan to try to seduce her, basically. Meanwhile, the queen gets some poison from this guy named Cornelius. Cornelius doesn't trust her, so he didn't give her a poison, he gave her like a sleeping potion. And the queen gives what she thinks is a poison to a servant of Posthumus's that he left with Imogen, named, starts with a P, there's a lot of P names here. Pisanio, I think is how it's pronounced, but the queen gives this potion to Pisanio and tells him that it's a healing potion that the king has used a ton of times, so he should give it to Imogen and, just in case. Back to Iachimo, he gets back to England, or it's Britain, I suppose, and he fails. He fails at seducing Imogen, and then he, in an effort to still win the bet because he put up like his whole estate as his failing thing. So in an effort to avoid that, he sneaks into Imogen's room while she's not there, hides in a chest until she's asleep, sneaks out of the bed or the chest, takes note of everything in her bedroom, and steals a bracelet that Posthumus gave her as like a symbol before he got banished. So Iachimo takes this bracelet and a description of her bedroom back to Posthumus, and he tells him all of this, and Posthumus is super angry and wants Imogen dead. So he sends a letter to his servant, Pisanio, and tells him to kill Imogen. Pisanio really likes Imogen and thinks that she's innocent, or knows that she's innocent, so he says no. He sends a letter to Posthumus, tells Posthumus that Imogen is dead, it's a lie, and then he sends Imogen into the woods to try to find her way to Posthumus, dressed as a boy. On the way there, there's a whole scheming thing still going on in the kingdom where the queen and her son convince the king to not send tribute to Rome, which is a big offense. It starts a war, which we'll get back to eventually. In the woods, Imogen gets lost. She finds this man and his two sons that live in a cave. The man's name is Belarius. The two sons also have names. I'm just going to call them brothers. One is a G and one's an A. So, Belarius has his two sons there. It's revealed very early on that these two sons are the two kidnapped sons of the king. So the two brothers, they don't know that they're the king's sons. They were just raised by Belarius and their nurse, who was also taken from the castle, or I guess at the castle. Belarius, the sons, welcome Imogen as a brother because they think he's a boy. They have a lot of love for him. They're very, very, they value this boy, who they think is a boy, a lot. They tell their father that they love him as a brother, and they want to take him in. They make the plan to take him in. However, Imogen is kind of sad about it. Sad about the whole situation. She takes what she thinks is the healing potion that she got from Pisanio, which ends up being a sleeping potion. She goes into a deep sleep. They think she's dead. They go to bury her, and then Cloten, the stepbrother, shows up. He starts a fight with the older brother, the G. G beheads him, and then Imogen thinks that this beheaded body, when she wakes up, is Posthumus. She's very upset about this. She thinks he's dead. He's not. In general, there's a lot of misunderstandings. The Romans pass by, they find the body, and they find Imogen with it. Imogen passes herself off as a page. She ends up being brought back to, like, her family home, basically. Posthumus joins Romans. The war keeps going. Posthumus finds Iachimo. He gets Iachimo to admit that he lied about the bet. Posthumus thinks he killed Imogen for nothing, so he disguises himself as a British soldier and puts himself in a place to be hung. That fails. Imogen finds him. This is basically the whole part where a bunch of stuff happens to clear up misunderstandings. The brothers and Belarius save Cymbeline and win the war, basically. They turn the tide of the war, so towards the Britons instead of the Romans. The queen dies. It's unclear how she dies. They don't really say so. She dies, and her ladies reveal her as, like, evil and plotting and how she did all these things and lied about all these things. So all of her misunderstandings with the poison and everything are cleared up. Belarius, they find out that Cloten is dead. They found out he got beheaded. They found out that G did it. Belarius, in an effort to keep his son from being beheaded, admits the truth that he's the king's son instead. Cymbeline forgives Belarius, I guess, because of the evil influence of the queen is gone now. He forgives Belarius. G's now the heir, so Imogen is free to be married to Posthumus, who she finds and forgives, by the way. There's a lot going on in this scene. She finds him. They are reunited. They're okay. Which seems a little stressful to me. All of the misunderstandings are cleared up. Cymbeline pardons the captured Roman soldiers and agrees to pay tribute again to Rome. So that's all cleared up. That's the whole play. It's a lot. again, I chose this play because I thought about Giacomo. Giacomo steals a bracelet, which reminded me of the handkerchief with Iago and everything. Wasn't really the same at all. Ended up being a lot more like Much Ado, basically, in the romance situation. For a visual element, I didn't know going into this that this is one of Shakespeare's least performed plays. So I did have trouble finding clips for any of the scenes I actually wanted to present. There's a scene in, it's Act 1, Scene 1, where Cymbeline and Imogen are talking about how she went and got married to someone else. And this is the scene, basically. I'll just read it. Cymbeline says, that mightst have had the sole son of my queen, because she was supposed to marry him. And Imogen says, oh, blessed that I might not, I chose an eagle and did avoid a puttock. And Cymbeline says, thou tookst a beggar, wouldst have had my throne, a seat for baseness. And Imogen says, no, I rather added a luster to it. And I thought that was kind of funny. I did include a clip to the scene where Giacomo steals Imogen's bracelet after creeping out of that case. The link is in my presentation. I can also send it individually. And then for characters, for the most part, I just really like Pisanio because it's really rare to see an incredibly dedicated and loyal male character in the Shakespeare plays that we've read so far, or not so far, just total, I guess. Pisanio is technically Posthumus' servant, but because he's so loyal to Imogen and so trusting that he betrayed his actual master, I thought that was really interesting because it's generally rare to see women or loyalty to a woman in a male character like that. I also found the Queen really interesting because of how genuinely negative she is. She's really easy to compare to Lady Macbeth, honestly, because of all her plotting and her plans for power. She plots really efficiently, but she succeeds in almost none of it, based on other people's judgments, basically. I don't even know what I meant by that. She succeeds in almost none of it because no one likes her. No one trusts her. In the end, she's one of the two villains. Her and Giacomo, I'd say, are the only real villains of the story because the rest is just a kind of understanding or misunderstanding. In terms of comparison, there's a lot of comparisons throughout, like the Queen and Lady Macbeth, and Giacomo and Iago. The manipulation and power for Lady Macbeth and the Queen, and Giacomo and Iago are similar in their thievery to make women seem unfaithful, though they're different in their motivations. The main comparison, I would say, though, is the love story between Imogen and Posthumus being very similar to Hero and Claudio. Misunderstandings and lies kind of surrounding the virtue of loving and trustworthy women are at the center of both of these plays. In general, it all plays out very differently. There's a lot of different pieces, I think, of different plays that Shakespeare has done within this one. It's a lot. I didn't realize there was so much busy content in here. But that's basically it. There you go.